Hi guys. So today's Tuesday, 7 April. We've got another video lesson, and then you've got some stuff that you need to complete um, in teams in your discussion groups. So um, what I would like you to do is pay attention as I show you kind of where and what material we're going to work with. As we talk about the discussion questions that you'll do in your groups, um, you know that's good information for you, so you'll be able to kind of wrap your head around what the story was about. um, but we're basically going to start by thinking about um, some of the components of the story and not like the what it was all about in the big scheme of things. So we'll start small and build up to the big idea at the end. All right, so I'm going to share screen with you. And here we go. So you have this is first period. Looks like Joey has shared the story to the main, like the main thread, which is fine. It's easier to find than up in the files. I didn't do that because I didn't want to have like a bunch of uh, like my posts cluttering things up. But if it's a student that shares something on there, then that's helpful. Uh, and you guys know that you can just look for my one main post each day to be the one that you get your base instructions from. So I'm going to click on the class notebook tab up here, and we have 6 April to 10 April. So it's already on the week that we're working with. But if you remember, there's going to be a page for each week. And you can add pages to your journal in the same way. Like I had to, down here at the bottom, there's a plus page. And that's how you would do a new journal entry. I don't want to dive into anyone's journals right now, but some of you have been using the same page and using it for multiple entries. So you have like 3 April, and before that you have 30. It's titled 30 March, and then the 3 April one is underneath it on the same page. And then a good man is hard to find. You started the entry there. That's okay, but it's better if you use different pages. It keeps it more organized, and I can tell more easily which ones I've already seen. So just keep that in mind. You're making it simpler for me if you have multiple pages rather than everything on one page. Because then if it's all on one page, I have to scroll through. Like I might not remember that Adam had done all of that and he was doing everything on one page. So to me, it would look like he just did the one entry for 30 March. And we don't want that. So let's look at this week's schedule. I've edited it to include questions, and you can see those here. There are 4 of them. That might seem like a lot of work, but it's not too bad, right? And we're not going to do all of them. You guys get to choose which 2 questions out of the 4 you want to answer. So don't answer all 4. You're definitely overachieving if you do that. And you're creating more work for your group members because the instructions say to answer each question that's posted in your discussion group. So the first person who comes in and gets work done today on 7 April is going to choose 2 of these questions to answer. And they're going to do something like choose number 1. Let's say they choose number 1 and 2. If you want to copy this into Command C, let's say I was going to do group 8. Hopefully there's nothing awful in here. It's Riley's group. So I would just paste it in, hit enter, and then everyone who worked in this group, Riley and Liz and 2 other people I can't remember without looking at the little roster, would answer this question underneath it by clicking on reply. Okay, so you type in your reply to answer or to question number 1 here. I'm going to delete this because I don't want to make choices for them. So this is deleted, but that's how you're going to go about getting your questions into your discussion groups. The choice is yours. I'm going to go over each of the 4 questions with you guys right now so you can make an informed decision. Maybe you had a different reading of the story where you read it from a perspective of, wow, these seem like awful people, right? And so that's going to lead you to be able to answer one of the questions better. Or you might just be thinking about the misfit and how did he turn out the way he is. And that would lead you to have more thoughtful answers to question number 1, right? So again, choose 2 of these, post them each into your discussion groups, and then everyone puts their answers underneath the original post there. So I think that's pretty clear, and it's a good way for you to collect your thoughts, organize them around one of these ideas, and it's a good way to get an idea of what other people in your group have been thinking about the same material that we've read, right? So we're working together on this. This is kind of a collective work. You don't want to just repeat what the person ahead of you in the post has said. But if you do a full answer to this, you may have all the same opinion about whether the misfit was born bad, as question 1 asks. But I want it in your own words, and I want you guys to give it as your opinion. Don't just repeat what the first person to post what they put. Okay. So question number 1, in your opinion, was the misfit born bad, or did the unfair punishment he was subjected to shape the person he became? Right. So you got to go back and remember the part of the story where the misfit is talking to the grandmother and basically recounting his history and his dad and his mom and all of it and how he ended up where he is. It's a sequence of events, right? But there's also sentiment in there. How did the people around him feel about him and treat him? And how did he feel about that treatment? And did that have anything to do with him becoming the man that he is, right? So think about those things. This is a relatively easy question, simply because it starts with, in your opinion, right? So as long as you're thinking about it carefully, there's not really a wrong answer. Just form a solid answer based on your opinion, and you're on the right track. Question number 2, in the context of the text or the story, why do people do bad things? Can the characters and their actions in the story be categorized as either good or bad? Why does the misfit do what he does? Right, so that last part kind of provides some specificity to the question as a whole. If you're thinking about things in terms of the misfit, why does he do what he does? And it's related to the first question, in that he probably does what he does because of how he was shaped as a person, right? You would think that. But think about it in the context of the story. Why do people do bad things? Why does the grandmother behave the way that she does? She's a pretty mean-spirited and a little bit nasty person in some ways, even though she's dressed up as a lady and she talks about how good things used to be, and the world was a better place before all of the horribleness of the modern era, which for her is in the early 1950s. But she's thinking back to the time probably between World War I and World War II, and how things were great. And she doesn't quite feel like everything's great anymore. And they're no good men. But think about other people in the story. Like, why are the kids so mean to each other and mean to their dad? The dad just seems like an unhappy guy. The mom doesn't even have a name, right? Like, she's almost a non-character. But in that way, I mean, that there's probably a point to that, because the kids got 2 names each and the mom has none, right? So think about who these people are and why they behave the way they behave. And are people either good or bad, or is this a complicated question? Can you say that people are one or the other, or is there always a mix? All right, question number 3, in the context of the text. So in the story, how do people face death? Consider the different characters of A Good Man is Hard to Find and how they each face death when you answer. So everyone that starts out on the road trip, except for the cat, meets a bad end, right? But how do they go about it? Like, what is it that, do they follow the men into the woods willingly? Do they beg and plead? Like, there's a different kind of a way, and it happens in a really pretty quick, like the last third of the story, that all of this happens. So you can go back and look at that, and you can just find out, like, how did they actually face their death? Like, that's an easy thing to find in the story and then put into your answer, right? And then when you're thinking about the larger question, how do people face death? Is there anything that's in common with all of them, right? Like, did they all face death the same way? Is there like some small part of how they face their deaths that's similar, that you could say is like a trend? People seem to accept it when it comes, or something, right? So think about things in that way. And question 4, in the context of the text or the story, how does fear drive action? How does fear drive the grandmother's choices throughout the story? So the grandmother gets them to go down the dirt road to find the house, and she realizes it's the wrong road and it's not even the right state that they're searching in. But there are other things that she's afraid of. She's afraid of the misfit before she ever meets him. She's afraid of, like, the way the world is turning out. There is a lot of fear of things that's in this, and we want to consider that. So if fear is the motivator for action in many ways in this story, how does it work? Does it drive them to do good things? When like soldiers do heroic things on the battlefield, they're definitely afraid. Like, fear is one of the motivators. But it can drive people to greatness. In this case, in this story, there's a lot of fear. There's the scary idea that this killer is on the loose, and then they're on this, they get into a wreck and they're on this backcountry road. All of these things, it kind of builds up. And then the encounter with the misfit and Bobby Lee and the other guy. And there's a lot of fear. Like, if I was in that situation with the family, I probably would have been pretty terrified. Even the fact that they drive up onto the scene of the wreck, and they're in like a big, like, black hearse type of a vehicle. Like, what's that all about? That's just scary in itself. So fear in this story causes people to make decisions. And I want you to think about that when you answer question number 4. Right? So just to recap, we have question 1, was the misfit born bad? Question 2, why do people do bad things? Question 3, how do people face death? And question 4, how does fear drive the action in the story? Or how does fear drive action in the story? So think about those things, and think about, like, your initial thoughts when you read the story, and choose 2 of these, copy and paste them and put them into your discussion group. And then everyone who comes in and answers after you should answer those same questions, like, underneath your post. All right. So not too bad. I know you guys you're loaded up with other stuff. There's always a lot going on. Other classes, family, all of that stuff. So, but these are good questions about the story. They're good things to think about as we get, more and more into our study of this one short 13-page story. It's going to take us the whole week to get through, and um, we will we'll end up writing about it at the end. But a good way to do um, a way that we're going to do better writing in the long run is to discuss the story first, and then do some pre-writing about it in our journals. Uh, take a little quiz uh, later this week on the story, just to make sure we're all on track with what happened, and then write a short essay at the end of the week. So you guys know this from looking at the schedule. I hope everything's going well. I want to make sure that you guys feel like you are free to reach out anytime if you have questions about our content, anything that I've talked about in one of these lessons, or just anything in general. I know, like the isolation, the being at home and being stuck. Well, I don't want to say stuck, but being with people that you're not with that much adds stress to your life. There's a lot going on. You guys definitely, I can tell from your journal entries and stuff that many of you are handling it very well. But I just want to make sure that you realize, that you have somebody you could reach out to if you feel like you're struggling a little bit, or you just want to, talk to somebody outside of the group of people that you're with 24 hours a day. All right, so I'm here for that. And I think you guys are doing amazing work. Everything that I've seen so far has been good. I like the thought you're putting into your journal entries. And you guys seem to enjoy your discussion groups based on your table groupings at school. So that's good too. Just keep it up, stay positive, stay home and stay healthy. I'm going to post something later today about Nikon, which is a camera brand. They have an online photography school, and for the month of April, all of their classes, their streaming classes, are free. So normally people would pay, quite a bit to take all these online classes from Nikon and learn all the ins and outs of digital camera photography. I don't know if there's film photography in there too. But if you're at all interested in that, I'll share that to each of the teams, so you can look that up. It might be something that would be worth doing. I know many of you talk about having this time and being able to do art that you used to do and you kind of got away from. So that's really a positive thing. It's constructive and it's healthy for you. And working on any form of artistic expression is going to be a good way to get through a period like this. So just keep that in mind, and look for that post later on. And I hope this has been good. Try to keep it from being not too terribly long. They're usually about 15 minutes or so. I'll be right back on tomorrow with some more discussion, kind of a deeper discussion of the main idea of the story. And you guys just keep up the good work, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.